Ever wondered what machines powered the sound of industrial music? Today we're diving into some of the synthesizers that shaped industrial music. The Moog Source was made between 81 and 85, and it was kind of a game changer back then. It was one of the first synth to offer patch memory storage, which made life so much easier. You could even save your patches to an external cassette tape using the built-in jack. Super advanced for the time. In trying to modernize things for the 80s, Moog decided to replace all the knobs with these flat panel membrane buttons. Honestly, I think that was a terrible idea. A bunch of artists used the Moog Source, such as Gary Newman, Frontline Assembly, Skinny Puppy, and even Ministry, who actually used it in the early days, like on their 82 track Same Old Madness. You can actually see the Source in the official video for that one. Now it's not exactly industrial, but if you want to hear an iconic use of the Moog Source, check out New Order's iconic track Blue Monday. That unforgettable bass line, that's the Moog Source. Such a great track. But for me, the coolest use of the Source has to be Front 242. According to a Gear News article, the Moog Source was featured on the track Operating Tracks. What's even cooler is that this track was written before the band even had a sampler. And the Source played a big part in shaping the sound we all love. The Nord Modular was introduced in '97 as the first digital modular synthesizer. The Nord Modular marked a bold and unexpected shift from the Nord lead. Instead of building on the familiar design, Clavia reduced the keyboard to just 2 octaves, or removed it completely on the rack version, and introduced the radical concept of editing your sound on your computer. The idea of editing on screen is something that we hadn't seen since instruments like the Fairlight. The Nord Modular was a total game changer. It gave you the power of a full modular synth, which used to be huge and super pricey. In 2004, the Nord Modular G2 dropped with a new editor, more modules, more power, and built-in effects like delay and reverb. The Nord Modular was used by Front 242 and also, of course, 9 Inch Nails. In an interview with Keyboard Magazine, Charlie Clouser said that a lot of the processing and drum sounds were actually done on the Nord Modular, which Trent is really good at programming. He's always been really good at using white noise, sweepy drum sounds, not so much synth drum sounds, but synth sounds used in a drum context. And a lot of those kinds of things were done with the Nord lead and the Nord Modular. The Novation Bass Station first dropped in '83. Unlike a lot of synths at the time, it had its own distinct analog character. One of its standout features was how well it could mimic the classic TB-303. It was actually one of the first analog synths to hit the market since the 80s. The bass station also found its way in a lot of industrial artists' setup. KMFDM, for example, has been using it live for years. I wouldn't be surprised if it made it into their actual songs. If you've got any solid infos on that, let me know. I'd love to dig deeper. One of the coolest uses of the bass station in my book is on the intro to White Zombie's More Human Than Human. Charlie Clauser created that filtered bass loop using a bass station. Such a killer sound and a great intro. I love it.
There's no excuses today. There's no seats. There's no aisles.
And speaking of Clauser, in a 2000 Keyboard Magazine interview, he mentioned that Nine Inch Nails used the Mini Moog, Nord lead, and also the bass station on the Wretched. There wasn't any real definitive synth bass. I mean, we used the Mini Moog, we used the Nord, we used the Novation Bass Station on the Wretched. The Roland Juno-60 is easily one of the most iconic synthesizer ever. Produced between 82 and 84, it was introduced alongside the Juno-6 as a more affordable alternative to higher-end synths like the Prophet 5 or the Jupiter 8. To compensate for the simpler architecture, Roland added a built-in chorus that quickly became the signature sound of the Juno and still is widely used today. Launched in 82 with a price tag of $1,300 US, which is about $4,000 in today's money. The Juno-60 made an immediate impact in the 80s pop music, famously used on hits like Take On Me or Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. Roland continued the Juno legacy with the release of the Juno-106 in 84. The Juno-60 wasn't only used for pop music. Cabaret Voltaire also used it, stating in a 2013 interview, "The keyboard I've been using recently I bought in 83 when recording the Crackdown, the Roland Juno-60. I've used it a lot over the years." Ministry's Al Jurgensen also credited the Juno-60. In Behind the Boards by Jake Brown, Al said that, "On a lot of those early Ministry albums, I used a Roland Juno-60 and a Roland Jupiter 8. And I also had a Prophet 5 I used for some strings. But it was mainly Roland with a little bit of Fairlight thrown in."
For you, Boston!
Roland dropped the JD-800 in '91 as a direct response to hard-to-program synths. Packed with sliders, just like you'd find on a classic analog synth, the JD-800 made digital synthesis way more hands-on. It really gives you that tactile control that a lot of synths were missing back then. Its sound engine is based on the D50, but with a 90s upgrade. And fun fact, I recently found out that the intro from the PS1 was made with the D50, which I found pretty cool. Memories. It came with a tough metal case, and honestly, it's one of the best looking synth ever made. I mean, look at that huge thing. At launch, it retailed for around $2,300 US. The JD-800 legacy continued in '93 with the JD-990. Fast forward to today, Roland has brought back the JD-800 in the form of software. The JD-800 was used by Nine Inch Nails, of course, and also Rudy from Woomscott, who mentioned it in a '97 interview. That late '90s Woomscott era, my favorite. I mean Embryo Dead, absolute classic. A JD-990 can also be seen in the studio of Frontline Assemblies' Reese Fulber. If you're a music producer, be sure to check out my website for presets and samples. You can also join my Patreon for Cubase templates, sound design tutorials, MIDI files, and private chat. Thanks for watching. Stay industrial. Ciao.